Well, folks, Marvel Snap has a brand new location. It's Bar Sinister. When you play a card here, fill this location with copies of it. And man, that's a pretty crazy effect that can result in some absolutely monster stat lines on this location. You can do some silly stuff, just completely disrupting your opponent's game plans, honestly kind of ruining their day with certain cards. And I think there's some real complications for how this one works. I've got some tips and tricks and mechanical explanations I want to cover in this video to make sure you're getting the most out of Bar Sinister, both while it's the featured location, but also moving forward. So first things first, let's talk about what a featured location means. This might be a term that's still a little bit unfamiliar. Featured locations is how Marvel Snap currently introduces brand new locations. Every Tuesday night, at least according to time zones here in the US, Marvel Snap will drop a new location and it will appear at a 40% bonus rate for 48 hours. That means basically it shows up in 4 out of 10 games, as far as I can tell, which is a little bit different than the hot locations. That's what shows up on the weekend. You'll remember Camartage showing up this weekend. Hot locations have a 60% bonus rate, or 6 out of 10 games. So this shows up a little bit less often, but still significantly enough that tailoring your deck to this location and making sure you're ready to play for this one over a 2-day period is really important. So let's talk about a few basics for Bar Sinister. Number one, on reveal effects work. So even for the copies that summon, they're still going to reveal as expected and trigger their on reveal effects. If you happen to play 2 or more units on Bar Sinister, the first one you play is the one that's going to fill any remaining spots that are left over. And finally, the effect will not trigger just because a unit is summoned here. It has to be played specifically. So any Squirrel Girls or White Tigers sending a unit over to Bar Sinister is not going to trigger its copy effect. In this video, I'm not going to give you specific deck lists to try to manipulate this because everybody's just at such wildly different collection levels. It's really hard to find an exact list that's going to fit everyone, but I am going to offer you some specific cards I think can really help punctuate with some powerful plays here. So let's start with the most obvious. If you play big, powerful things on Bar Sinister, you're going to get big, powerful stats. If you drop a Hulk, you're going to get 48 power, and sometimes that's just going to be big enough to win the location. I don't think this is the smartest or most elegant way to play towards this location, but absolutely that can work, especially if you're early in your collection level. I don't think anybody should be ashamed to just drop a big powerhouse and hope for the best. Another angle to take, of course, is just dropping a really nice effect. A strong ongoing card like Blue Marvel, you're going to quadruple this effect. Normally you only have one of these, but now you're giving +4 to your entire board. Also, the Blue Marvels in this location are all going to benefit from one another as well. So each of these are going to be 6 power. That gives you 24 power on Bar Sinister, and then on top of that, everything else is getting a monster buff. So an absolutely fine sort of play to make. Now, what I think we're going to see more commonly, and perhaps more unfortunately, are disruption effects. I think far more people are going to be interested in messing with their opponent's game plan as opposed to just playing their own powerful stuff. So cards like Hobgoblin, for instance, or even more commonly, if you're further along in your collection levels, you might see Green Goblins as well. Both of these allow you to fill your side of Bar Sinister and then swap all of these negative stat lines over to your opponent's side of Bar Sinister. So you have 2 things you've done. You've, of course, negated them the ability to play there and do their own powerful play on Bar Sinister, but you've also probably instantly won the location because you've given them so many negative stats. And Green Goblin in particular, coming down fairly early in the game, is very likely to get in ahead of whatever your opponent is trying to do from a powerful play themselves. If they're trying to drop a big Hulk on turn 6, Green Goblin's going to screw them over. Now, that said, there are some really interesting mechanics with how Green Goblin works, and I recorded some footage here to showcase this exactly. Namely is the fact that Green Goblin, he actually will reveal himself, and then the first one will go over to the opponent's side of the board, and then 4 more will summon to fill the location. So really the wording on Bar Sinister is a little bit wrong. It should say after you reveal a card, not really when you play a card. I don't know how those are defined specifically in Marvel Snap mechanics language, But what that means from a practical standpoint is that if your opponent's side of Bar Sinister is empty, you're going to end up with 1 green goblin left over on your side, because you send that first one over, you make 4 new ones. That means only 3 more can move over. So that won't matter too much if it works out well for you. But there's another interesting mechanic with green goblin. If your opponent plays a card at the same time there as you do, if you reveal first, your green goblins are going to head over before their duplicates are made. So they will think they're going to get, a nice set of copies on Bar Sinister, and in reality, they're going to get stuck with 3 green goblins. That does mean you're going to have a couple green goblins left on your side as well because of that first mechanic we discussed. But again, that's probably worth it in most cases. And of course, if you reveal second with green goblin, that's an enormous risk where you're going to be stuck with a full spot full of green goblins. You're probably going to have to retreat. Now, the other completely annoying and dastardly play on Bar Sinister is Debris. This one will completely lock out the other 2 locations entirely, and it will do it for both players. So your opponent might have some, they've tried to win a location already with some, big stat line or a couple early minions, and then drop Debris on turn 3. And, they're hoping to get there because they're kind of messing up their own plays as well. And that's going to be frustrating. I don't know how good this one's going to be because it definitely has some risks and downsides. I had somebody play this against me and just lose because they were completely locked out and I had a better play on my own side of Bar Sinister. So frustrating, annoying, good. I'm not totally sure just yet how good it's going to be. One other interesting interaction I wanted to talk about is a card like Hulkbuster. With Hulkbuster here, there's a really cool effect. Because of this on-reveal effect that merges him with other cards, you're going to have your first Hulkbuster go down, and then each of the other 3 copies that you make are all going to stack on top of that first Hulkbuster, turning it into a free 16 power. You're going to spend 3 energy for 16 power, and you're still going to have 3 spots left. So you can still follow up with additional cards on Bar Sinister and continue to stack stats there. So this can be a really efficient play. You're getting all those free bonuses without losing the upside of the free spots. Now, if you're just completely sick of Bar Sinister and you just don't want to deal with it, well, you've always got cards like Scarlet Witch. Remember, you can use this to erase the Bar Sinister effect and play around any sneaky stuff your opponent might be trying to do. This card can be useful in other cases as well, but sometimes during these featured or hot locations, it's really nice to have something like Scarlet Witch or maybe Storm if you have access to Storm, which can just reset things and make the game feel a little bit more normal. Wanted to talk about a few other interesting cards. Dr. Octopus, for instance, can be a great way to get 40 power in Bar Sinister while pulling a bunch of random garbage into there for your opponent. This card can be disruptive in normal cases, but especially here since you're getting a lot of power and your opponent is less likely to get that much power on Bar Sinister, this can be a really swingy sort of play that's both combo disruptive and just instantly win a location. Another sneaky play I think you could make is with a 1-cost card like Korg or perhaps Iceman or Yondu. There's a few that fit the bill here. And use this on Bar Sinister to make a really disruptive play for your opponent. In this case, shuffling 4 rocks into their deck and killing their draw. Or with Iceman, increasing the cost of their cards by 4 mana because you're getting copies times 4 there for these on-reveal effects. And then using a card like Killmonger in order to clear off the 1-cost cards that you played on Bar Sinister, then allowing you to, of course, play more stuff and then maybe getting some big effects or big stat lines to follow up after getting the easy disruption there from your opponent. I think cards like Claw are also pretty cool because your opponent might be expecting you to dump a bunch of stats in Bar Sinister right at the end of the game, say if you played this on turn 6. But what you can do instead is put just a little bit of stats in Bar Sinister and surprise them by shifting all of the power from the Claw here over to that next location to the right instead. It might really allow for some sneaky sort of mind games where they're expecting a big dump and instead the dump happens middle and they didn't account for that, and that allows you to win the game. So those are the cards that came to mind for me, but I know there are a lot more fun ways to use this one. If you guys have any cool ideas or stuff you've already been trying with Bar Sinister and it's working well, share all those thoughts in the comments. Of course, help each other out. I don't know everything, so when we can learn from each other, that always helps a little bit. That said, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate all your time here with these Marvel Snap videos, and until next time, game on.